So, we want to talk today about school and our experiences with school and different questions about whether or not we like school, our different attitudes towards school, and yeah, just go a bit throughout our lives and talk about it.
Yeah, because school is, it's not obviously it's not everyone who gets to go to school,
No,
but a lot of people do.
at least
Um,
within the West.
yeah, sure, and maybe you can relate to, you know, some of the things some of the opinions that we have about school. But what is your like, if you can remember, do you remember like your earliest experience of school, your earliest memory of school?
I mean, I remember kindergarten.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like,
does that classify as school, or is that?
I don't know, that's at least my first,
But that's the first institutional place.
that I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously that was just about like having fun. But the times I remember were like the bad times. Like I remember like a bee landing on my eye and then trying to like swat it away and then it's like stung me in the eye and then I had to get like an ice cream or stuff like I wasn't allowed into like the chicken because my kindergarten had like a chicken.
Coop, like a chicken coop.
Yeah, a place with a bunch of chickens. And I wasn't allowed to go in there, and that's what I remember. But my parents tell me it's because I kicked them.
You're a fucking psychopath.
Yeah,
What do you mean you kicked them? Like you just went over and you just.
yeah. When I was allowed in there, I just like kicked them, so I wasn't allowed inside. But I remember not being allowed inside. I don't remember why.
Well, I know you were just a kid, but that sounds so psychopathic. It's almost as if you blacked out and you just had this violent like rage fit where you just
Yeah,
started kicking. I don't remember what happened, but I wasn't allowed in there.
I also remember. This is something my parents told me. Apparently, I lied about my teachers like hitting me with like bats in
Holy shit!
a Danish like kindergarten, which obviously wasn't true.
No. Do you remember exactly like where did that lie come from? Where did it originate?
I don't know. It's like from back then I only have like small like fragments,
Yeah, sure.
and that's just something I've been told. But apparently I was like a yeah, I was a bit weird.
Yeah, you kick chickens. You lied about
Beaten up by my teachers.
like you're the one who actually did violence, and then you said that others committed violence against you. That's
Yeah.
funny. I mean, I don't remember any. I mean, it's not like I didn't make mistake. I think you probably remember kindergarten a bit better than I.
Mm.
Hey, here's an embarrassing thing that you can laugh at home if you like. I don't know what it's called in English, but in Danish, like a fluordragt.
Like a one piece coat for children, you know?
Yeah,
I don't remember
yeah.
what they're called.
And I and we had all these standardized one piece coats, whatever you
Yeah.
would call it, at the kindergarten, and everyone got to wear theirs, and and that there was it was split up in one piece coats. That's just what I'm gonna call them now, for boys and for girls, and all the ones for boys were taken, and
Mm.
the only one left was one for girls. And I had to put that on because I was the last guy they picked out to have one of these things on. So I got like this pink with flowers coat all
Oh,
over me.
lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely, but it was too lovely. And I remember when I walked around in the kindergarten, all the boys just fucking pointed at me and
Mm.
laughed at me when they saw me wearing this thing. That's one embarrassing thing I remember from kindergarten that I would rather forget. It's just all the boys laughing at me because I had this pink flower thing on, and they had this like cool like boys. They had this blue fucking what typically a boy would wear,
Yeah.
and I didn't, and I had something else on.
Yeah.
That's one of the only memory. I guess I have some other memories of my time in kindergarten, but that's one of the embarrassing ones. Just to sort of maybe match yours. I mean, it's less psychopathic, I think. But
Yeah, like there's like you didn't do anything wrong.
no,
You were just put in a coat that like
I was just fucking unlucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
I went out and kicked chickens
And
actively.
I really want to know more about it. We're gonna talk about this a bit more later.
Yeah,
But
we can get back to it.
but do I have any other memories from my time in kindergarten? Um, hmm. No, I don't. Yeah, I think I do, but I don't even know if they're worth mentioning. It's just I remember not exactly having a great time in kindergarten.
Mm.
And I think it was because I didn't really have a lot of friends. So I was kind of a lone wolf. I've been that way throughout most of my time in school slash kindergarten.
Mm.
You know, I've always been this sort of loner. I mean, maybe I remember having one friend. His name was Casper, and he, you know, he occasionally came to where I lived, and we hung out. You know, as children do, they hang out.
Yeah, they
But
play.
They played, but that was mostly it. I don't remember. Maybe I would remember more of it if it actually was a time I cherish. But to me personally, it isn't.
I didn't have many friends in kindergarten either, but I didn't like
Who
mind.
would have thought?
Like I didn't care.
No.
The thing is, like, I guess it's like I hung out with a bunch of people. Like I remember being at people's houses and stuff, but I just remember not. Okay, this podcast has already made me sound really weird, but I didn't care about them. I was like, "Who are you people?"
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
my parents had just put me together with kids, you know.
Yeah,
I think I was really, yeah, I was a special one when I was younger.
So you kind of you kind of watch the social aspect from the sideline. Would you say that you didn't really participate in it? You just kind of saw other people talk, and you just kind of
Yeah,
was like, "Who? Why am I here?"
I feel like I was, and maybe I just remember things wrong, right? It might be completely different, but like I was remember just feeling like an outcast sometimes. Like I'd walk over to like two people playing with dinosaurs, right? And I'd want to play with them too, or I'd want to play with the dinosaurs. I wouldn't want to play with them, you know. But then like there was one kid in my class who had like a name that wasn't like Danish, you know, like it was ethnically from somewhere else. I don't know where, but like I didn't know how to pronounce it, and then like his friend got angry at me for not being able to pronounce it, and I remember I was because now I'm very like if I want to be able to say someone's name right, but back then I was just like I remember just like I took their dinosaurs and left. It was,
When
like
you just grabbed it out of their hand and just ran away.
yeah, I was just like I couldn't be bothered with them. And I remember like in my kindergarten, Yu-Gi-Oh cards were very like popular.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
The first time I ever saw a Yu-Gi-Oh card was like this first kid in my like kindergarten who got them came to school with like this brand new like Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't know if you
I've heard of that
yeah
card before. It's
yeah
probably very like
it's like the
popular.
most iconic, right?
Okay.
And he had just gotten like this cool. I'd never because I'd watched the TV show, but I'd never seen the cards in real life yet, right? Because they weren't like in Denmark at least they weren't that common as cards.
Yeah.
But I'd seen the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I'd never seen it in that rendition. It was like in the galaxy with like a. It looked really cool. And I remember I stole it on his first day. Like he'd just come to school with it.
I mean that's not that off from what other kids do
No.
because in my kindergarten it like Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't the thing as much as Pokemon. Pokemon
Yeah.
was the thing. That was the popular card trading game that people
Mm.
like. I never actually saw anyone play the fucking game, but they traded for sure.
Mm.
I mean, and
Yeah.
then other kids stole some cards as well. So that was kind of normal, and then there were childlike disputes about that. But you stole dinosaurs and you stole.
Well, I didn't steal the
cards.
dinosaurs. I just took them to play somewhere else.
Oh, but okay.
But like they were playing with them first.
Yeah, so you kind of.
But like it wasn't theirs either, you know?
No,
Like it was
yeah,
the
yeah.
kindergartens. But I just and like there was this one time where I accidentally like bumped into like this girl in my kindergarten. Like we walked into each other. And I remember the teachers came over and got really mad at me, and I didn't understand why, because I was like, we just walked into each other. But I must have done something.
I mean, did you like it was an accidental bump? But do you remember if she fell to the ground when you
No,
bumped?
we just like bumped heads against each other.
And
I might have said something afterward. Like
You fucking bitch.
I only remember like certain things.
Yeah. Of course,
And
it's fragmented.
Yeah, and it's like, and I just can't piece them together. I'm like, I don't know why these stuff happened or why I did things.
I think I only remember things that were embarrassing for me.
Mm.
For some reason, that's the fucking things that I remember once. For some reason, I was on my way out of kindergarten. I think my mom came to pick me up,
Mm.
and we were about to leave. And then another girl went back into the kindergarten and passed us with her mom. And for some reason, like the girl and I were about the same age. We made eye contact. And for some reason, I blinked at her. Like I did a little flirt, like blinked at her. like, and she started laughing, you know, and her mother saw it and she started laughing, and we just kept on going. And I don't know why I felt like I was fucking like I was a Casanova in that moment. I just thought, oh, let
Yeah.
me just blink at this girl, huh? And I remember doing that, and I just today I regret it, but at the same time I don't, because I think that was kind of a ballsy thing to do as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of I'm a bit like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
But
But you got embarrassed.
of course, then you grow older, and then whenever you're doing the dishes, all of these things will just kind of hit you like a shower of embarrassment will suddenly, like
Yeah.
coat your whole being. Um, but those are the kind of memories that stand out to me in my time in kindergarten.
Yeah. I think my sense of like embarrassment and shyness, because I was really shy for a period in my life,
Yeah.
but that was like after kindergarten. It was only because, but like during kindergarten, I just remember being like, yeah, whatever it is I just described.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then, then came first grade. What do you call that in English? It's not elementary school, is it? It's
well,
right after kindergarten.
it's part of elementary school, but you also go into like preschool, which is like like grade 0 in Denmark.
All right. So we came to preschool, and I don't really remember much of that. I think my mind has sort of pushed a lot of those memories out of my head, because I guess they're not memories then, but they pushed those moments out of my head,
Yeah.
because it wasn't a particular great time for me to be alive. I remember staying at home a lot of times from school because I just did not want to go.
Yeah.
I remember whenever I came to school, it wasn't hard for me to follow it. It was never like a case of not being able to cognitively understand what the teacher was teaching us. It was just more like I didn't feel at place. I was never a part of the big group. I was kind of shy too, you know.
Yeah.
I was an introvert, although I didn't know what that meant at the time. I was shy, and I didn't speak to a whole lot of people. And I think that's almost always been constant throughout my whole like academic journey, has just been this thing of not having a certain group to be in, but just kind of I'm more of a traveler. I just kind of travel around this group and this group. Like this changed when I finally came to high school, because then I felt like, this is gonna sound arrogant, but I felt like at the age that you're in, most people are in mentally at high school, sort of matched what I was a lot of the time when I was in preschool, in elementary school. Like I felt like I could connect more with the people there, and that's not to say I'm better or I was more mature, but simply that I felt like I could understand people better, and vice versa when I came to high school. And that's when I actually started to have a stable group of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before that, it was just I never really felt at home.
All right. Yeah. Well, my like school story. This is where it starts deviating.
Oh, it already has, but just go.
True. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My place of origin was already a bit weird, but yeah, this is where it starts deviating because the first year of my life I lived in Tanzania, but I don't remember because I was a baby. But like when I was what was I 5? So right before like my last year of kindergarten, my family moved to Ghana in West Africa, and so I went to school there. I went in preschool, first grade, second and third grade, and like obviously that changed a lot. And I remember this is where I like truly became shy, but like I feel like also during my childhood I was never like afraid of like being who I was. Like I've always been like the weird kind of outcast who like just does whatever I want. Like played and like I don't know, was like I had friends, but like I was very much like myself, and I thought other people were stupid like in my age. Not like because they were smarter than me. I was like dumb because I didn't know a lot, but I thought that they were stupid for like being smart. I was like, why do you care? At least I thought back then, you know.
Yeah.
I was like a weird little creature, but I remember like my first day there in like the school, my parents opened the door, and we had been late because we were always late to everything, and like the class was already there, and they all just like everything stopped in the classroom, and they all just stared at me. And then the teacher came over and like just took me into class, and my parents left, and I was just like, and I didn't know how to speak English. I didn't learn
Oh,
English until like half a year into the school, so I was just like there.
so you were in South Africa and
West Africa.
West Africa. My geographic knowledge is about zero. It's probably
Yeah.
but you were there and you didn't know how to speak English, and you know, the only language you knew was Danish. So
Yeah.
there wasn't any way for you to really communicate, huh?
No, but the thing is, children learn language very quickly, and
Yeah.
especially like at the age I was in, and also because like when you're surrounded by people speaking another language, you learn it very quickly compared to as if you're in Denmark learning English. It takes a lot longer than if you're in a place and you have to speak the language.
Yeah.
So like I learned it eventually. I remember the teacher was like talking to my parents and being a bit like worried that I never said anything, but they were like, my parents were like, it'll come, just don't worry. And then it came. But I remember I really enjoyed like my time in Ghana, like because I was also with my brother, and me and my brother have always been very close, and like we just did a lot of things together. But some of my friends, I had two friends that I'm still friends with today that I met there, and they're like two of my best friends. But we just had a lot of fun together with my brother too. We were like four, like he had his, because he's 4 years older. He also had other friends, right? But it was just like when my friends were over, he'd also
He hung out with other people other than your
exactly
friends.
right. Like he wasn't just like 10 and hung out with 6-year-olds,
Hey.
Like he had his other own friends, right? But like yeah, he always hung out with us, and we just went to like beach resorts sometimes, or like sometimes on like a Sunday we'd go to like the pool like downtown, or like just and because like we didn't do that all the time, but I just remember the times we did because I remember the fun parts of Ghana. That's like the difference. Like in kindergarten, I remember like the annoying parts. Like I remember breaking my collarbone. I remember getting stung by a bee. I remember like not fitting in, those things. In Ghana, I just remember the good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like and yeah, I feel I always had this other friend. I like as I've gotten older, I realized like he was autistic, and because he had like this teacher following him a lot, who was like a special needs teacher, right?
Yeah.
Back then, I did not understand, right? I thought he was like, I thought the teacher was just like following us everywhere, and I got really angry
You
at him.
just thought you had a stalker.
Yeah, like because he like stayed by that other friends, right? So it was like every time I wanted to hang out with him in school, like that teacher would be there too. And I was like, I remember like getting actually angry at him.
Did you then tell your parents that she hit you with a baseball bat? Okay, sorry. Just it was a callback.
Yeah, callback, but I should have.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, but like now I know that okay, yeah, there was a reason, But it's like back then I did, because that's the thing. When I look back on myself, like as a child, I just remember myself not knowing anything. Like I felt dumber than other kids.
Well, you did move to a whole new country with a totally different culture. So
Yeah.
basically, I don't think you really did know anything. I mean, you didn't even know how to speak English when you first
No.
arrived.
And it's also like the system was very different because I've always been like when I've been in other countries, I've gone to international schools and they've been American, right? Like I've never been to local schools. I've always been in like international schools. But the system is very different, compared to Denmark. Like in an American system, there's a lot more focus on like grades, like right from early on, and like being like academically sound. Like I remember in third grade, we had this like week where we each got we each had to choose like a prominent historical figure who we then like had to first, like there was this like museum in the library where we had to like parents could come, and then we had to like do presentations for them, right? Like live. And I remember like so many of the other kids that day got to stop like early, except for me, because my teachers didn't think I was good enough. Like I wasn't doing a good enough job at it.
Why do you think that was? Was there a language barrier?
Not even because this was in third grade. Like I
Yeah,
spoke
so
English.
you spoke English.
I could not like comprehend, like I didn't care. Like the things I chose Steve Irwin, if you know who he is.
Yeah.
Like the animal guy, right?
Yeah,
Because I like watching animal shows,
Yeah.
right? I really like animals.
Makes sense.
But like other people and like third graders, right? They were going as like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and like Abraham Lincoln.
Oh.
I didn't like understand. I didn't care. I thought they were just like old people.
Well,
Like,
to be honest, I would rather hear your presentation on Steve Irving because those are people like obviously there's a reason for it, but those are people that you always hear about in school.
yeah,
I've never heard a presentation in school about Steve Irving. Never.
exactly, right? And like as a child, I could not, because obviously I couldn't comprehend why like other people thought that they were so interesting compared to mine, right?
Mm.
Like I was like, Steve Irwin worked with animals, right? Like he
Yeah.
fought with crocodiles all the time. Like how is that not more fun than a woman who sits on a bus? Nowadays, I know how influential someone like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King are,
Yeah.
right? Like incredibly important. But like in third grade, I didn't I didn't know, right? And it was like I guess that's also just a difference in like the culture compared to, because like because I came back to Denmark in third grade too, because like I did third grade again because like the ages for each year were a bit different. So if I'd gone back and done fourth grade, then I would have been a year younger than everyone. So I
You
did
didn't. Well, you didn't want that. Huh?
no, like my parents didn't want. They wanted me to do third grade again, so I'd be the same age as the others in Denmark. You know?
Did you notice any like really big differences then between the third grade in Africa?
Yeah. I mean the like third grade, you still like do schoolwork, right? It's not just like that in Denmark. You just play until like seventh grade and then you get grades, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I fit in a lot better academically, right? Like not necessarily like socially, but like academically. It was just a lot more fun, you know? And less strenuous. Like I remember like those times in like Ghana where I was doing like homework with my mom until like from like dinner up until like my bedtime, right? Which was felt like late back then, but it was probably like 9:30, right?
Yeah.
But like I remember like sometimes like crying
Because it
during
was so strenuous.
yeah, because there was just like every time I'd finally done like a page, right? Then just the next page of that chapter. And it was like it was just and maybe it was different for other kids, right? But like it felt so stressful. And like I didn't know what stress was, right? I was just like, why am I getting put through this, right?
Yeah.
And then but like going back to that week of like where we had to be an influential person, at the end of the week, it was like the culmination of it. We had to like in our classroom have presentations on our own. But like it was like kind of like a debate thing where like everyone sat in chairs and then there was like a big table and you had to go up and you had to like make your case for why yours is the most influential. And you had to choose three people you were more influential than. And I remember being like
And that you were more or Steve Irving?
Steve Irwin,
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
Just me standing there like
Like,
Martin
like
Luther.
a third grader.
Yeah, no, like Steve Irwin, right?
All right.
And like, yeah, and I was just standing there. I was and like, I don't know like if I was supposed to, if my teachers, because I also don't know what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
Like, were they fine with what I said? Because I was like, Steve Irwin is more influential than Rosa Parks because she sat on a bus. That was like my arguments, right? That made sense to me, and I was like, but yeah, it was.
I don't like the fact that they made you argue the case for who was more influential. I would rather that you just opened up and talked about Steve Irving and the others did the same for their historically influential figure.
That's also most of what we had to do, but like it ended with like the three people, which like I could see getting like being older, that would be really interesting, right? Like have it like debates like who trying to make an argument for who could be more influential, right? But having a more debate, right? But like back then, and maybe again it was just me, right? Maybe, but I just feel like most third graders don't have that level of insight or like critical thinking to even know why, you know?
Yeah.
Like why are these people influential? Especially because like especially with some people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, who were very influential during like the American Civil Rights Movement, right? Like they're one of the big reasons why black people in America have rights nowadays, right?
Mm.
Back then, because I was a kid, right? Like children don't see color unless their parents, like unless they're told to see color, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I didn't, because first of all, I didn't understand why people like I didn't know what racism was, right?
Right.
Like I don't. It's just like in third grade, I didn't know anything. I didn't like care about these things. So I was just like, Steve Irwin's cool because he played with animals.
Yeah, obviously, like you choose what you like. You pull from the hat of knowledge that you possessed
Yeah.
at the time, and that I think that's completely fine. I'd still rather hear your presentation than Steve Irving just because I thought that would be interesting. But I'm not really sure I even know what racism is now,
Mm.
in the sense that I've never really encountered it in real life.
Hmm.
I hear about it on the internet. I hear about it in articles and I hear about it just generally on social media, but I've never actually encountered it in real life. And I know I don't live in America where it's probably more prominent if it is, but again, we live in Denmark. I've never really encountered racism. Obviously, I'm not black, so maybe that changes the game up a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't exactly look European either. So it's like, but I've never really encountered it. So I get what I get, but you're right. As kids, we don't really know what racism is. We have this blissful innocence that
exactly.
that keeps us from those kind of things, unless we're at a very very early age forced to deal with those kind of things.
Exactly.
But it's interesting your journey through school. But then you went back to third grade in Denmark. But you said you were more socially like included in when you were in West Africa than when you.
It's not necessarily included. It was just like I don't know which one I'd say like was better. Like I had more fun. Like I had friends both places, right? And I had really like a lot of fun with them, right? It was just more like the big difference was the academics. Right?
Okay, so it was more strenuous in West Africa than it was when you returned to Denmark.
Yeah, I was just quickly want to return to like the whole like racism thing, which is like in Denmark, because obviously we don't have the same history of like separation between black people and white people, and like even like different ethnicities, right? Like there's also a lot of Asian racism, a lot of Middle Eastern racism, a lot of like Latino and Latina racism. But it's like the things, racism comes in a lot of different I guess like packages, like a lot like it can be seen in a bunch of different ways. like nowadays you don't see a lot, even in America, like a lot of pure like I don't like black people, right? Or like I hate black people, like it still happens, but it's like a lot of it today it's because that's been like socially excluded, like socially you're not allowed to say that, then people will hate you, right? It's more like through like policies and stuff, and it's in Denmark, even though there's not that much like black and white racism, one of the things we have like experienced, at least in the last like decade, is like
Muslims do.
Yeah, Muslims and like xenophobia towards like Middle Eastern people. That's like the main one we see here in Denmark a lot, at least like politically.
Yeah. I'd say so too. Although I've never, like, I've encountered people close to me who use like kind of what would you call it, discriminatory terms when describing Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Danish term would be paga, and I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the English equivalent is, but I've heard a lot of people say call them that, and they say it in jest when there's no one around. Like, how people are when they're just together and they're just fucking around. Whatever, we have a beer by our side and we just say stuff because no one is here. It's not gonna harm anybody, and it's not our actual viewpoints. And I get that sort of like dark humor kind of thing, but I was also able to differentiate between people who are close to me who say it, and it seems as if it's the words that are coming out of their mouth, like the word paga, is a consequence of an actual viewpoint that they're kind of suppressing because they know it's not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And I guess I have then encountered some racism, but it's not actually it's not committed against anyone of that race.
Yeah.
But that there is, I guess there also is systematic racism here in Denmark. But I've just, what I mean when I say I don't really know what race, I guess it's the same thing that Lil Wayne said when he talked about it.
Mm.
Lil Wayne, the rapper, he said that he was rescued by a white police officer when his life was in critical danger. I don't exactly remember why.
Yeah.
But he was rescued by a white police officer who told him everything was gonna be okay. And that's why he kind of says that I don't really know what racism is.
Yeah.
And that's I guess it's along those lines that I'm thinking when I say that I don't really know what it is, because
you've never experienced it.
I've never experienced it. Like I've experienced a lot of people who called me a girl. I don't know what the term for that is, but I've never actually been like been racially discriminated as. I mean, when uh, I joke about around with the fact that I look a bit Asian.
Yeah.
Like when I'm with my friends, like I fuck around, and because I like I'm able to laugh at it and go with the jokes. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I've never actually experienced genuine racism.
Yeah. And like, and I think a lot of people haven't experienced it either, right? Like another thing is, and that's another thing, like racism can be in different, like comes in a bunch of different levels, right? There's like extreme, like where it's actually like hateful speech towards someone with a different skin color, right? There's
Yeah.
also like a lower level where it's more that like banter between friends, you know? Like for example, like the N word, like some people who use it like just between their friends who would never think of using it towards another, like towards a black person, right? But like they use it within like their friend group and stuff. But it's like it still in a way like normalizes the word and
I think
keeps it in use, right? Like there's some words that are like the word we have in Danish for Middle Eastern people and the N word, which are words that throughout history have like are racist terms, right? Like they don't like they have history, like the N word has a history of like slavery, right? It has a
that's true.
its history is like blood of black people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's use and like when it still gets used, right? And like gets used around like friend groups, even if it's not used against people, right? Like it's still a racist term that like gets kept alive. And like that's still another factor of it. I wouldn't if like I saw like if a friend of mine said the N word, right? In just like a casual way, not towards anyone, right? I wouldn't like immediately be like you're racist, but it's more like the word is racist, right? And like you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I see what you mean, but I think I disagree with the fact that the word is racist inherently, because I've always seen words as, and I remember I had a small discussion about this at a university.
mm,
I've always seen the words having the power that we give them. I
mm,
think when you are wary of like when you call it the N word instead of beep, I guess. But when you just say it, it's I don't think I don't think it's inherently racist for me to say it. I think it would be racist if I used it in a discriminatory way, kind of the way that what was he called, Little Easy said it in an interview, like one of the OG rappers.
mm,
Like he said, it depends on the way you use it. I don't I think you're not really doing any service to kind of prevent racism if you regard the word as racist in all contexts in which it is used.
mm.
I think that's giving the word the power that you so desperately want it to not have. Um, and that doesn't mean that you should just throw it around like fucking balloons at a party. Like you shouldn't just throw the word around, but you can use it like in an editorial sense when you're talking. And I don't have a problem with a teacher, giving the history of apartheid and then
Mm.
saying that, white men used to say this a lot when talking about black people. I, I don't think that's inherently racist. And if the word in itself was inherently racist, why is it then, and it just is, that is what the word is in itself, then how come the word has changed so much to the point where black people nowadays use it casually as a sign of brotherhood, of love?
Well, that's the thing, like you mentioned about like we give words meaning, right? Like words don't have meaning unless we give them meaning, right? And like a large part of like the black community has taken back the word in a sense, right? They
Mm.
put like they've taken away like the hard R and put an A on it, right?
Mm.
And it's become like a brotherly thing, right? Like a thing between them.
Mm.
And I think that's fine. Like especially I have no like I can't say anything against that, right? It's like and I also wouldn't say that word. And the thing is like from having like conversations with people, right? Who like the word has been used against or like they are black. I think I just think there's a difference between people who the word has been used against, taking it back to empower themselves, compared to like people who have never like and whose race has never had it used against them, like they've always been the people to use it. Like I think there's a difference between those two groups using it. And the way that like the way I have it with the N word, right, is that and I know like calling it the N word gives it a certain like ooh like like it sort of like elevates it in a way,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But like at the same time, I don't the thing is, like, I don't think I can't use the word. I just don't want to use the word because I think, and like, and I'll try to like ask my like people around me to not use the word, right? But at the end of the day, like, I won't call you racist for using the word, right? Like we'll have a discussion about why I think we shouldn't use the word, right? But it's like, but there's nothing inherently racist just about using. I also had a teacher in 10th grade when we were learning about the civil rights movement who used the word in like a completely academic way, right? And then a lot of students, because I was in Kenya, there was a lot of black people in my class. They didn't like it, so they talked about it, right? And that was it. And she was like, "I'm sorry," right? And then she, like, and because it offended people, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And it's like, and at that point, it was like I think people should be open to like making mistakes, right? And then if someone doesn't like it and like talk to you about the use of a word, right? I think it's completely okay to say like, all right, I'm sorry. But it's also like we should also, in that case, some people didn't accept it, which I was like, I thought it was like good for her to like apologize and then like for offending people and then saying sorry. But then I didn't think it was like worse than that. I didn't think she was racist. And again, talking about an issue like this being white, I don't understand the context, right? Like I understand the word and I've talked to people about the word, but I don't understand it like its true meaning being like used against you or your forefathers, because like it's not that long ago that this word was properly used, right? Like my dad, he didn't live in like in America, but he was around like 7 when the Civil Rights Act got like came through in America, which is just to show that like it's not even like for me 2 generations ago, right? For a lot of people, it's 1 generation ago where people in America, like black people in America, were literally like class citizens, right? They just did not have rights. They couldn't own a bank and stuff, right? Like a bank account. And it's like the history is still there and it still affects people a lot today, right? So it's like, and it is a complex topic, especially because and like I've had people like friends who've like talked about like, oh, but if black people use it as like a thing of love, like why can't we use the same thing and like change the meaning of it?
That I don't agree with the fact that we can use it in the way they use it, because that I can see, because that wouldn't really make sense because we're not taking anything back. We can't exactly take,
like it doesn't empower us, you know.
No. But you also mentioned that you don't want to use the word, which I get, because I don't want to use it either. But mostly when I'm using the words, like the words I'm using right now, I utilize those words because of a practical necessity in order to construct a sentence to give the meaning from which that I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
So when I say the N-word, I guess I have to say the N-word. When I say that, it's more like of practical necessity. It's like the example with the teacher teaching like history. When you're teaching history, I think you should give the whole history. But I also get if she's like, I don't think it's doing their education any good if you're censoring it. But I also think if she says the word in front of a predominantly black classroom and they get genuinely upset, if I was the teacher, I would also apologize and not use it, but only if I thought that they were actually getting genuinely upset and it was not like a weird like power play thing, like trying to exert something upon me. But if I could see and if I could connect with them and feel that I've genuinely upset, then I'll also be okay. I'm sorry, I've hurt you.
What would a power play be in that situation?
Like there are people out there who will, like, and I've met a lot of them in not a lot of them at the university, but I've encountered some in real life who will use like the N-word as sort of a power move. Like if you say it in casual conversation, they'll be very quick to throw a label at you such as racist in order to make you seem, in order to first censor you, but also it's to kind of keep you down in a way. Like you can't say that word. Whereas I'm like, why? Why exactly? What is your motivation for telling me not to say that word? Is it because you actually think that it's like, are you actually hurt by this? That's the only, like, do you actually feel like I'm exerting some sort of hate speech towards you? All right, if you feel that, I'll stop. But if it's more of like, like I'll control what I'll control the words that come out of your mouth. I'm not in that game at all. If that was the motivation that I suspected or I felt in that moment, I wouldn't back down, especially if I'm not using the word in a racist way. But even if I wasn't using the word in a racially discriminatory way, and I was still upsetting them, I would stop if I was genuinely upsetting them. But it would depend on what I thought of their motivation at the point. That's a nuance that I will always be wary of. Because it's easy to like back down because it is a very heated topic, especially the N word.
Yeah.
And you know, it can scare a lot of people from not only saying the word, but even just approaching the you know the term or the subject matter at all. And you know, and there's a good reason for it, because it is kind of what would you call it, charged. It's, I don't want to, if I'm ever going to censor my words or my speech, I'll do it for the right reasons, and that is for me to decide. Like, what do I feel in this moment? That I'll always be like, okay, I gotta assess the situation. Just because someone says something to me, like, oh, you shouldn't say that, I'm not just gonna be like, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I'll be like, why don't you want me to say that? And I'll be like, and if they're like, well, I actually do feel really upset, and if when they say that, I can feel a genuine surge of emotion of being, you know, I don't know what to call it, but if I feel that, I'll just not say the word. But only if that is the situation in which I'm placed.
So is it only if like a person is actually getting like personally upset at it?
Yeah, if it's actually doing them the harm that they say it's doing. If what they say it is matches with what they're actually feeling, and it's not a something else, like if it's actually hurting them, and they're like, no, you know, I don't, please. Okay, I'll be like, okay, I can see this is upsetting you. I guess I won't say it.
What if it's like a worry for other people, or like for the general use of it, of the word? And
if
like,
it's a worry for other people, I would hope that those people would tell me themselves. If those people have told this other person to speak for them, and they not, and I'm like, let's say I was the teacher in this instance, and they've told this other person to, could you please tell the teacher, because we're a bit scared, we can't do it. And she's like, well, they've actually told me, could you please stop? Then I would stop. But if it's, for example, a white person or someone who's just kind of talking on behalf of them and getting offended on behalf of them without them ever like giving out any signal that they're offended, or if they're not even offended, like I won't back down, like, for you, especially if you're making it seem as if you're talking on the behalf of them. Like, how do you know that?
what if it's not like a like personal, like what if it's not people they know? What if it's just like broader, like worry for like the use of the word and it getting like I don't know, I guess making it like more common again, or like the potential of it hurting other people. Like it's not like there's not this one person that I'm afraid of you offending, but it's more like a broader sense, like generally.
I would ask them, well, what exactly do you think the consequence of me using the word, like, how exactly do you think the way I'm using the word right now in this editorial educational sense, how do you think that will, like, explain to me the process of how that will end up, you know, making making the term usable for genuine racist people, like it was, you know, all those years ago. Like, how do you actually think? Because I to me that doesn't really seem realistic. That sorry, it just doesn't. Me using it in a classroom as a teacher in an editorial educational way, I don't think that will spew out into society and make the word more common, and then white people are just gonna use it in a discriminatory way again. I don't think that will actually happen. I don't see that as very realistic. I think that is I like it, and it also goes back to the thing of maybe not trying to give the word the power that you so desperately wanted to not have. I think using it in an educational way like that is actually kind of also a way of taking the power from it. Actually, instead of, the dreaded N word, the thing that we have to be very wary of.
Yeah.
Like I would say, be wary of the way you use it, and even if you use it in a non-discriminatory way, be wary that it's not genuinely upsetting people. Those are the two. Those are the two things that I would say about the usage of the word. And then also to your point about white people saying that we shouldn't. Why can't we say it if black people can? Because you can't take it back the way they did. So
Yeah.
that's another. That's at least that's my opinion about it.
Yeah. All right. And it's like going back to like my classroom, like things, the word was never like censored in like any videos we watched, right? Or like documentaries, right? Like it's still important, especially like with like when it comes to history. It's not a word we should delete from history, right? Because it's very, very, very influential, right? And it's such a big part of history in general, especially like American history, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was never like oh, don't ever in any context like mention the word in this classroom. It was just more because like she was also, I don't fully remember where she was from. She was either American or South African, right? And she was white, and it was like, and I guess people just didn't feel comfortable with her saying it, right? And that's a different thing. And she understood, and she was like, and when people say sorry, right? It's like I've often heard people being like, oh, why should I like apologize, right? It's like saying sorry is not that deep, right? It's not like if someone says, can you please not use this word around me, right? Like you say, okay, sorry, I didn't know, right? And then you both move on. It's not like I'm sorry, I'm a bad person, I'm sorry I did this to you, It's like,
Yeah.
like I think it's easy to just say like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, right? And then they say, it's fine, yeah, it's just, yeah. It does make me feel very, very good to hear it, right? And I don't think other people either. And like if they also say, right, and then we move on, like there needs to be room to grow too. That's also why I'm often like, I don't like the debate of like, you can't say a word, right? I think we should try to get it over to a place where it's like, do we want to say it, right? That's my thing. It's like, the reason I don't say the word isn't because I feel like I can't, right? I can say the word very easily, right? It's just like I don't want to, and it's both because of like, like not personal experiences like I've had to me, but like personal experiences with talking to people, right? Being in different countries in Africa changes your experience, right? Being in an American system, right? And it's like, so personally, I'm like, I don't want to say it. Like, I'd appreciate like, or like at least I'd talk to other people about the reasons, right? Like, I also don't think it helps anything, and because sometimes people can get emotional, right? And we need to take that into account. Sometimes people will act and like, and then conflict happens when people are emotional. But I don't think it's like it helps that much to just be straight up like, don't use that word, like, right? Like you're a bad person.
Yeah.
Because that will never give a good reaction, right?
It also won't give an accurate representation of reality.
Yeah. And like and it won't really lead anywhere, right? Like if someone says that to you or someone else, right? Or me, right? If someone's like, you're a bad person, like don't ever say that. Just naturally, because then we start getting emotional, right?
Yeah.
Like that's and when two people get emotional, that's when conflict happens, right? Then one person will answer back and then it becomes spiteful, right?
Yeah.
It's like to change people's is like, I think it's so much more, like it gives a lot more to try to talk about it, to give your reasons for why, like why you don't think the word should be used in different certain contexts, right? And like the history behind it and how it's been used and how it's a word we shouldn't really like, that at least like as a white person we shouldn't want to use, right? But like, and at the end of the day, that's all we can really do, like give the arguments. There are some instances in like on the internet, I think it's okay to like censor the word a lot of places, right? Because it gets like on the internet, shit can be used in so many different ways, right? And like, and I think it's good to like root out racism, but like on like a personal level, it's, I just think it, to really make a difference, right? Or to even like begin to change someone's opinions on something, you can't start out with like an aggressive tone.
No, of course not. You have to actually set the boundaries for the debate and make a foundation of, you can say something and I can say something and we can communicate. That's something we discussed in our very first podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is of great importance in order to establish a optimal room for conversation in the future. And I think you're right when you say it shouldn't be a word that white people want to use.
Yeah.
I think you're completely right. I don't know if I classify as white actually,
Yeah.
but
Even like just socially, like.
yeah, sure. It isn't a word we should want to use.
Yeah.
That's not gonna stop me from using it when in a practical way or an educational way. It's not like I want to use it. It's the same as before. It's the want to use the word, and it's the feel using it in a practical way in order to construct a sentence. The thing I just described. That there's always. I don't even know if I want to use the words I'm using right now.
Yeah.
But I definitely know I shouldn't want to use the N word.
Yeah.
And I think that's you're completely right about that. And I don't want to use the word, but I also I don't really want to call it the N word, to be honest. I don't really want to do that either. I don't think we should want to have any of these variations of the word come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
We shouldn't want to do that. But sometimes we just do because that's that's the sentence I'm trying to construct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right about that.
All right. I think because I'd love to talk more about it.
Are we already?
Topic. No, but 10 minutes left. I think we should just quickly get back to the school system.
Yeah, we actually, yeah, sure.
We might have to do more next time, but
yeah, sure. I mean, then what? High school. Is there any memorable memories you have of high school?
High school I really loved, because that was when I moved to Kenya, and in the beginning, like I was not happy about going back, because between like 3rd grade to 8th grade, that's when I was in Denmark. But then, and I'd gotten like really good friends, and then I came to Kenya, and it was like before that I was really dreading it, but I ended up really loving Kenya. Like that's where I really felt like I became me in a way, like that's really where I could start separating myself from like my early like teenage years and like all the way throughout childhood. Like it's still me that time, right? Like me running around playing with myself and stuff. Not in that way, but like
Okay.
That was still me, but this was like in high school where I really started becoming my own person and knowing who I was. And it was also where like life, like I have friends I still talk to today. That's where I met my girlfriend, like
I think high school is also. I think high school is also the place, not for everybody obviously, but it's one of the more common places to actually find a prototype of a stable identity.
Yeah.
Because during elementary school you just kind of fuck around. That's when you try all the different hair colors. Like I'm this person now. I'm this person now.
Yeah.
When you come to high school, that's where you should kind of. Obviously, you shouldn't already have settled on who you are as a person in high school, but I think that's where you should sort of begin at least to feel like, okay, I feel like I'm falling into place in a way. I'm kind of learning what works for me and what doesn't. That was the same with me for high school. As I said, that's when I started having an actual stable group of friends that I hung with. So that was the point where I actually started enjoying school.
Yeah.
That was high school. I would say before that, there were enjoyable moments, but I wouldn't say I enjoyed school in a general sense. But when I went to high school, things changed, man. Yeah. I don't. Do you have any like specific memories of high school? Because to me, it's all just kind of I do when I started in HF is what's the what it's called in Danish. Like when I started there and took my 2 years there, I have so many fond memories of presentations and graduating, and then we have this thing. I don't know if this is a thing you do in other countries, but in Denmark, studenterkørsel.
Oh no.
It's specifically Danish, where you jump in a van and you drink beer and you play loud music and you just fucking drive through town and you just yell. Like that is. I have, like I wouldn't change those memories for anything.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that?
I mean, I have great memories. One thing about like you talked about like graduation and like the driving around, I never had any of those things. Like in like 9th grade in Denmark, after you have like the like dressing up and like last school day. Did you have that?
Dressing up the
In,
last
in,
no,
in like
ninth.
costumes.
Did you say ninth grade?
Yeah, like the end of ninth grade. Or did you not have
No,
that?
I don't think I did. But you dressed up.
Okay, no, in like Denmark, in like or not in Denmark, in like in my school at least, right? It was like in grade 9 we had like I wasn't there obviously because I left before ninth grade, but like there's a tradition that you like have costumes on your last day of school. You like throw around like caramels to like kids, and then you go down by like
Oh,
some
the
place.
caramel thing. Now that you mention it, we did have that.
Oh, okay,
But I
yeah.
didn't dress up.
Okay, yeah, but I don't know if you guys, but we all like in my school they all dressed up, and then you go somewhere and then you like have a party, right? I left the year before that, so I never got that, and then COVID happened right before my graduation.
Yeah.
So I was like, me and my dad, we had to go back because everyone in like within the Danish embassy had to go back to Denmark because they were afraid of like riots and stuff. Like it was only like the people actually working there, like my mom and stuff, who stayed in Kenya. So we left right before graduation. So I never had like the big graduation either, and I never had like the like Danish one. So like my high school felt very anticlimactic,
Yeah.
in a way, but like just throughout it, I have so many good memories. Like I remember it very vividly.
So you didn't really have that big finish, but
No,
but
it was
I
like
guess
all journey, no destination.
yeah, I was about to say, but it's the journey that matters, not the
Exactly.
although I would say the destination is fucking great. You know,
It
and
must be. It must be.
but you did reach that destination, but you didn't have those kind of boop, boop, boop right at the end,
Yeah.
you know. But it, yeah, high school was a fucking great time.
Yeah.
And now we're in university, and it's very different. Like we don't even have to explain to each other what that is because
No.
as we've already said, we go to the same university.
Yeah, we talk a lot about it too.
Yeah, very like the studying is very autonomously done.
Yeah,
Like we don't get like
homework assignments.
we don't get homework assignments. We just kind of you choose when to read and how to read and what to
Yeah.
read, and
You don't have to go to lectures. They're
no,
open for your benefit, but
no, yeah, they're open for your benefit, but you don't have to go to them.
it's like it's the reading that like the reading, that's the part that you need to know, but it's like you don't even need to read all of it.
No, I certainly don't. Like that, like he's in a reading group where they kind of distribute the individual text to each other
Yeah.
to manage it because there's a lot of textbooks, or there's a lot of material to read this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I've chosen to do it on my own. And I can tell you right now, if you're thinking of studying psychology, there's a lot to read, and if you're reading on your own, you're not gonna read everything. You're just not gonna do it. So don't worry if you like miss an article or two, because that shit's common.
Because first semester you were like fully focused on just reading.
I made all the mistakes first semester. I tried to read everything, and then I actually tried to live a life, outside of school. I tried to work out like 6 days a week. It was fucking insane, and it wasn't like easy. It was like I did a program prescribed for an athletic, or an athlete. It was fuck, and I tried to get better at playing the guitar, and I tried to do everything at once, and you just can't do that. And
No.
and watch our previous episode about time management. You'll probably find that that's not a good way to live.
No, that's true. But yeah, I think we're about time.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Hope you enjoyed the conversation.
yeah.
And we'll be back next time.